Hi there, my name is Kara Kaup. I'm a pediatric physical therapist from Edmonton, Alberta. I'm also a person living with long COVID. As well, I've been involved with the Long COVID Physio organization since its inception in 2021. In February of 2024, I had the pleasure of presenting this course with Dr. Angela Grace and Jennifer Thompson at the Central Alberta Teachers Convention, CATCA, in Red Deer, Alberta. Hopefully you've watched Module 3 and 4 now, where Angela and I covered some common chronic and post-viral illnesses. We described some common symptoms seen in children, what you might observe in your students in your classroom, and how they might describe these symptoms to you. For Module 5, I'm going to talk about how to support these students with school accommodations or modifications. Okay, let's talk about some basic principles and how you can put them into practice. When you approach students dealing with chronic or post-viral illnesses, there are a few core principles that should guide everything that you do. Think of this as a practical guide for how you can help your student and how you can be one of their most important allies. The first rule of thumb is simply, first, do no harm. These students have what we call a limited energy envelope. If they push past their physical or cognitive limits, even just by a little bit, it can trigger a crash that sets their recovery back for days, weeks, or months. Our main goal is to help them stay within the safe zone of their energy envelope. We are not expecting you to be doctors and diagnose these children, but by understanding the science behind these conditions, hopefully you can spot the warning signs for these children before they push past their limits and crash. You can see the complexity of this in the graphic on the right, Maslow's hierarchy of long COVID needs. This was developed by the Long COVID Kids organization. Children's basic needs for safety and physiological health look a lot different than a typical student's, which is why we're asking you to learn about chronic illness, post-viral illnesses, and long COVID. Hopefully it will help you to spot the invisible hurdles these students face every day. Next, and perhaps most importantly, please listen to your students and their families with compassion and believe them. These kids are often dealing with symptoms that are invisible, confusing, and sometimes, quite frankly, they're scary. Many adults and children have been gaslit or told it's all in their head by their friends, their family, and sometimes even their doctors or their other healthcare providers. When a student tells you they can't do something or that they're hurting, your belief in them can be a powerful antidote to that doubt. Just by acknowledging their symptoms, you are creating a safe space for them. Please partner closely with parents. They are under an incredible amount of stress trying to navigate their child's illness, and they need you to be their advocate within the school system. Inform them of any changes that you notice in their child. If you see a dip in your student's energy, a change in their mood, or a new symptom, please let their parents know. Instead of guessing what your student needs, please ask, how can I help? This also opens the door to supporting your student with the appropriate accommodations. These adjustments are the bridge that keeps students connected to their learning without draining their battery. We encourage you to collaborate with the whole team: parents, doctors, physical and/or occupational therapists, psychologists, and any other healthcare providers that are involved with the child. We need to make sure that everyone is on the same page. Collaboration will ensure the student is receiving all of the supports and accommodations that they need. Finally, we all value education and its importance, but we must agree on one thing. A student's overall health and well-being must always take priority over school attendance and learning. Sometimes a student needs to step back from school to rest and improve their capacity. Our job is to support that priority. These students need you not just to teach them, but to support them as they navigate their health journey, which is one of the most significant challenges of their life. I'm going to discuss a variety of classroom, instructional, and evaluation accommodations that you can easily put into place to support these students. Consistency is key. Accommodations need to be used regularly and consistently. That means making sure everyone is fully aware of the plan. This means all of the core subject teachers, along with the gym or phys ed teacher, art and music teachers, right down to any substitute teacher that's involved with your student. Accommodations versus modifications. When you talk to parents, it's helpful to clarify the difference between an accommodation and a modification. Accommodations are strategies that help a student meet the same curriculum expectations as their peers, like giving them extra time for an assignment. A modification means the student is not expected to meet the same curriculum expectations as their peers. This results in the student working on different learning goals than the rest of the class. Understanding this difference helps you and the parents decide together what level of support is truly best for their child. However, for this course, we're going to focus on accommodations. Our ultimate goal is clear. We want to support the students' academic success while protecting their health and quality of life. The message we're sending to the students should be that the entire school community is working together to create an environment where they can produce the work they're capable of, maintain social connections, and participate in extracurricular activities if their energy allows. First, let's cover some classroom and physical accommodations, specifically focusing on how to manage absences and modified schedules. All of these suggestions come from children that I know personally who are living with long COVID, from the Long COVID Kids website, from the Long COVID Families website, or just from my many years of experience of working with children with various disabilities in the school systems and trying to help them succeed in their school experience. First and foremost, there is a no one-size-fits-all approach. Every student needs a flexible and individualized plan. If your student tells you that they don't feel right, please believe them and simply ask, "How can I help you?" Remember that your student desperately wants to appear well. Many of us with chronic illnesses pretend that we feel better than we actually do. So please keep in mind that your student might not feel okay, even when they say that they are feeling okay. It's really hard for kids to ask for help. They may feel anxious about expressing their needs, so please gently encourage that conversation and let them know that it's okay to talk about it. The reality is school absences are going to happen. They are necessary so that the child can rest in peace to manage their learning needs and daily life. Attendance needs to be individualized based on their energy envelope for that week. Since many chronic and post-viral illnesses are episodic and unpredictable, you might see that students need a blend of in-school and online learning. You might see that students need to look at attending only part of the day, such as afternoons, since mornings are usually pretty hard for people with long COVID. Or they may only be able to attend school a few days a week, or they may need to alternate their days of attendance. Or you may see some students need to do all of their learning online for a while, with planned rest periods at home. For older students, a practical schedule suggestion is to schedule a free period or a less demanding class immediately following a cognitively demanding one. This will give their brain a little bit of a rest. We need clear protocols for when kids need to stop and rest. If a student is experiencing a bad headache, a migraine, or a pain flare, please encourage them to go home for the day to rest. Having them push through that will only make them sicker. If a student is experiencing a crash or a worsening of symptoms, they may need to take a few days off to rest at home. Flexibility is key, with reassessment at planned intervals so the child can manage their symptoms. Finally, please be aware of the pressures on the child to attend school. This might be self-imposed, It could be coming from friends, could be coming from family members, or it could even be coming from other teaching staff. Please keep that in mind as you work to do what's genuinely best for your student. Now let's get into the day-to-day. How do we actually translate do no harm into a busy school day? Here are some effective, practical ways to help a student manage their energy and pain in your classroom. First and foremost, the single most crucial thing you can offer your student is scheduled rest. We have to remember that pacing applies to the brain just as much as it does to the body. Your student might need 20 or 30 minutes where they can just put their head down on the desk or go to a quiet, dark space to rest. This isn't just a physical break, it's a cognitive rest. Think of this as a recharge, not a break from learning, but rather a tool that allows your student to keep learning and be able to participate for a longer portion of the school day. We also want to take the social awkwardness out of feeling sick. Have a secret signal. Please work out a discreet signal with your student, such as a sticky note on the desk or a subtle hand gesture, so they can tell you that they're struggling without drawing the whole class's attention. A teenager suggested this to me. These students, they just want to blend in. Have an exit pass. Give your student a no questions asked exit pass. If they feel a crash coming on, they need to be able to leave the classroom immediately. Removing the need to explain themselves saves precious energy and reduces the stress of performing when they feel terrible. And this is where the do no harm rule is most critical when we're dealing with phys ed, gym, and recess. Phys ed, gym, and recess may require major adjustments. Your student may need to adjust the intensity or withdraw completely from phys ed or gym. Your younger student may not have the energy to go outside at recess. Please remember the concept of post-exertional symptom exacerbation, or PESI. Exercise is not medicine for people living with post-viral illnesses and long COVID. We have to be incredibly careful with phys ed and gym. We need to screen for PESI, and if a student has PESI, pushing through a workout or a gym class won't make them stronger. It will actually make them sicker, reduce their overall function, and worsen their long-term recovery. If physical activity makes your student's symptoms worse, your student must be excused from gym. And this is the most important thing I'll say today. Exercise is not recommended for people who experience post-exertional symptom exacerbation. Navigating the hallways or going outside at recess can be like running a marathon for these kids. Simple ways that you can help are: have a buddy system. For older students, have a friend help them to carry their books. For younger students, have a friend hang out with them at recess to do less physically demanding or quieter activities. If the school has an elevator, let your student use the elevator. Give your student a head start to leave class early. This helps them to avoid the human pinball of crowded hallways, which is both physically exhausting and overstimulating. And if your student is using mobility aids, such as a walker or a wheelchair, this gives them more space to navigate the hallway. Lastly, watch for moments that your student might be hitting a wall, physically or cognitively. If they are clearly in pain or appear fatigued, shift gears to a lower intensity activity. Instead of a cognitively demanding writing task, let them color, draw, or listen to an audiobook. This helps them to stay connected to the classroom without overtaxing a brain that's already running on empty. Please be flexible with your students' cognitive load and think about quality over quantity. Our goal here is to create a safe environment for the student so that they can stay involved with their class without having to sacrifice their health to do it. Here we have some additional classroom and physical accommodations related to managing energy and pain, but we've also included a few suggestions for students with sensory sensitivities. So let's get into the specifics of how to adjust the physical environment and provide support systems to help your students thrive. Supplies and seating. sometimes simple adjustments can make a huge difference. You may need to provide your student with extra materials or a second set of textbooks to keep at home. This reduces the weight they have to carry and the mental load of remembering to pack everything up each day to take home. Strategic seating is key. Your student might need to sit closer to the door for easier exits or near an open window or a portable air cleaner to accommodate for their MCAS, mast cell activation syndrome. Or they may need to sit away from high traffic, noisy, or bright areas to limit distractions and sensory overwhelm. Students may need to wear noise-reducing earplugs or noise-canceling headphones in the classroom. Or they may need to wear sunglasses in the classroom. Comfortable seating. Please look at the student's chair setup. It's tough for kids with ME/CFS or long COVID to sit unsupported because their core muscles are weak. Make sure they have a stable base. Their feet should be flat on the floor or a support with their hips and knees at a comfortable 90 degrees. They might need extra back or trunk support to sit comfortably through the lesson. Standing. We need to be flexible when standing is required for these students. If your school has lines like for kindergarten entry, please don't make your students stand in a line. Please place a chair out for them so they can comfortably wait without losing energy before the school day even begins. Assemblies. Similarly, ensure your student has a chair for assemblies or activities where others are expected to stand. Emotional and emergency support. Beyond the physical space, we need to create a reliable emotional safety net for your student. The key person check-in. The student needs one specific adult they can check in with, whether that be a counselor, the principal, or the vice principal, a learning coach or an educational assistant, or a specific teacher that they have a connection with. Please choose someone they have reliable access to regardless of their grade. Having this confidant will make them feel safe to discuss their energy or pain levels. A rescue protocol. For managing urgent flares of pain or exhaustion, you need a pre-planned rescue protocol. Think of it like a peanut allergy plan. It's a step-by-step document that clearly explains what to do immediately if the student is experiencing a severe flare-up. This helps teachers and staff to act quickly and confidently, supporting the student's immediate needs. Let's move into instructional accommodations. These are simple ways we can adjust how we teach and present information to help these students save their precious cognitive energy. First, think about how you deliver your instructions. Let's try and keep them clear and simple. For students who have processing difficulties or brain fog, complicated sentences are mentally exhausting. Try to provide instructions in simple language, broken down into smaller chunks and shorter sentences. This will make it easier for your student's brain to retain the information. Next, let's talk about how we provide information. Don't rely on just one way of giving information. Provide instructions in more than one method. For example, give your student the instructions orally, but also provide them in writing, or even as a quick audio recording. This gives the child something concrete to refer back to, especially if they lose focus or forget the directions later. A student may need to reduce the amount of writing or copying that they can do. Copying notes from a whiteboard, for instance, uses up a lot of cognitive energy that your student needs for actual learning. Please be flexible. Provide printouts of notes or let them use a device to record your lesson. This next idea came from a grade 1 teacher. She uses visual cues in her classroom. For younger students, try using color coding for different subjects and images for the tools needed for that lesson plan. When students see the red slides, they know it's math time and time to get out their math books. And when they see blue slides, they know it's language arts time and time to get out their language arts books. This simple visual cue provides an anchor that helps students transition quickly, saving them mental effort. These changes are often minor adjustments for you, but they make a huge difference in preserving a student's energy levels throughout the day. Finally, let's talk about how we can actually measure what these students are learning. The reality is that if you test a student while they're in a crash or experiencing a high level of pain, you aren't actually testing their knowledge. You're just testing their illness and fatigue level. To get an accurate picture of what your student truly knows, we need to tweak the how, the when, and the where of our evaluations. Often the biggest wins come from just changing the environment. Let's talk about a few things that we can do here. Extra time. Because of pain or fatigue, your student's brain may process things more slowly. Giving your student a buffer of extra time takes the stress of finishing on time out of the equation and lets them demonstrate their true knowledge. Having a quiet spot. Classrooms are noisy and overstimulating. A quiet, low distraction room lets your student save every bit of focus for the exam itself, rather than spending it on blocking out background noise. Spacing things out. Taking 2 big tests on the same day can lead to a total energy collapse. Whenever you can, please work with your students' other teachers to schedule exams on different days. It's a simple shift that prevents your student from completely depleting their energy envelope. Think of these next items as energy-saving tools. They let the student focus on the lesson rather than fighting their symptoms. Scribes or readers. Sometimes the physical act of reading or writing is what drains a student's battery first. Having someone read the questions or jot down the answers lets the student spend their brain power on the actual content. Calculators. If the goal is to learn a new concept, rather than a task like memorizing multiplication tables, let your student use a calculator. It saves mental energy and helps your student to keep pace with the rest of the class. To help students manage memory and attention challenges, consider allowing them to use a reference sheet during tasks or assignments. Think of these reference sheets as a memory backup. On foggy days, retrieving a formula that the student already knows can feel impossible. This ensures that you are grading your student for their understanding of the material, not just how much their symptoms are affecting their memory that morning. Audiobooks. For novels, audiobooks are a lifesaver. Sustained reading is a massive energy drain and can even trigger migraines. Listening to an audiobook lets your students stay engaged with the story and the class discussion without the physical strain of reading. For these families, preparation is everything. It's how they survive from week to week. Giving a heads up. Let the family know about big projects or exams as early as possible. They need that lead time to plan, prioritize, and budget their energy. Having an energy bank. A student may need to miss a day or two of school right before a big deadline. It sounds counterintuitive, but they're actually banking their energy to be able to show up and complete the task successfully. At the end of the day, small shifts that are made in how we evaluate these students make a world of difference. It's the difference between a student falling behind and one who is empowered to truly succeed in your classroom. If your student is still struggling to manage their energy and symptoms, even with all of the other suggested accommodations in place, it's a sign that you may need to look at making adjustments to their workload. This is when we need to start talking about reducing the amount of work that they are being asked to do. It's all about protecting that energy envelope that we discussed earlier. For older students, to prevent your student from crashing, you may need to get creative with the syllabus. First, look at quality over quantity. Please consider cutting down on the overall number of assignments your student needs to complete for assessment. For example, instead of multiple small assignments, maybe they focus on just one big assignment per semester to show how they have mastered the material. Shorter assignments. Consider providing shorter exams and assignments, or in some cases, even grant exemptions from certain exams. Remember, we are grading their knowledge, not their endurance. Symptom-driven decisions. If your students' symptoms worsen, be ready to reduce their workload and assignments. Their health must drive the workload, not the other way around. Prioritize core subjects. With a finite amount of energy, sometimes your student may need to focus on core subjects and temporarily drop electives. It's about prioritizing their energy to get through the essentials. For younger students, the principle is the same, but the focus is more on their foundational skills. 2 key components. If your student has limited energy, you may need to focus on literacy and math, and maybe just one subject that they truly love, like art, to keep their spirits up. Less volume, same outcome. Instead of a 10-word spelling test, maybe they only have to spell 5 words. A math worksheet could have 8 problems instead of 10 to 15 problems. Instead of completing a full test or worksheet, maybe your student could have more fill-in-the-blank kind of questions. The key is that they can still meet their grade level learning outcomes, just with less volume. These are definitely difficult conversations to have with families and the school team, but they are essential steps. By reducing the volume, we are protecting your student's ability to attend school for longer. When we adjust the workload, we aren't lowering expectations for the essential learning outcomes. We are simply differentiating the output to respect the student's physical and cognitive energy limitations. It is about ensuring that they can demonstrate mastery of the curriculum without having to pay for it with their long-term health. I'm going to circle back to some additional classroom and physical accommodations related to quality of life. Remember that these students desperately want to feel included. They want to be at school. They want to be with their friends. Our job is to help them to do that safely. First, let's talk about creating a calming space. For many of these students, a standard classroom can cause sensory overload. We can help with this by making a few simple adjustments to their environment. First, lower the volume. Sometimes the world is just too loud. Consider allowing noise-canceling headphones or noise-reducing earplugs, such as loop earplugs, to help your student block out or decrease the extra classroom noise. For some children living with post-viral illness, loud noises can cause them to crash. For others, the background noise makes it difficult for them to focus and concentrate on the task at hand. Lower the light. Sometimes things are too bright. For example, some people cannot tolerate the sun or fluorescent lighting in the classroom, or the computer screen might be too bright. This too can make them crash. Consider allowing your student to wear sunglasses in the classroom or blue light glasses if they are sensitive to bright lights. Have a dedicated space. Please find a quiet, dim spot where your student can go to lay down or do some gentle breathing. Having a prearranged space lets your student know exactly where they can go to rest, recharge, or reset their overwhelmed nervous system. Offer quieter alternatives. If the class is doing something high energy and it is just too much for your student, please offer lower sensory options like coloring, drawing, or listening to music. And please remember, these aren't distractions, and this isn't opting out. These are essential tools to keep an overwhelmed nervous system from hitting a breaking point. Now let's talk about the heart of the school experience, inclusion and connection. When a student has a chronic illness, they often feel like an outsider. Please try to find ways to keep them connected to their peers, even when they can't participate in the usual way. You can look at redefining roles. If a student can't play the sport they love, maybe they can be the scorekeeper or assistant coach for the team. This keeps them connected to their friends instead of sitting alone in the library. Provide recess alternatives. For younger students who can't run around at recess, let them invite a special friend to stay inside with them for a quiet activity, like a board game or a craft. This turns a limitation into a special privilege for both of the children. Think about small but powerful choices. Encourage leadership in your classroom. For example, when the class is practicing writing, let the student select the writing topic for the day. Or if the child is creative, let them lead an art lesson. This is a simple way to give your student a sense of agency or make them feel like a leader in the classroom. Think about assigning a classroom job. Give your student a low-energy, high-value responsibility, like feeding the class pet. It's a quiet, meaningful task that gives them a sense of being needed in the classroom. Lastly, please try to make sure that rest breaks don't overlap with your student's favorite subject. If they live for art or science, let's protect those moments. We want school to be a place where they can still find joy, not just be a place where they have to manage their symptoms. These small moments of inclusion remind the student that while their body might be limited, their place in your classroom community is important. Now let's talk about prioritizing joy and flexibility. Please understand that these children are going to have good days and bad days. Their illness is episodic, unpredictable, and extremely frustrating. A student might be able to handle a full math sheet on Monday, but by Thursday, that same task feels like climbing up a mountain. Flexibility is the biggest tool here. On high symptom days, you may need to pivot your expectations for your student. For example, you may need to switch from a written essay to a verbal discussion instead. By adjusting your method to match your student's capacity, you will help break the push-crash cycle. This keeps your student from overextending themselves and paying for it with a week-long crash. This allows your student to progress in school at a pace that is sustainable. Lastly, this next part is truly important. Sometimes a child might need to miss school for an event that brings them joy. A few years ago, I met a 15-year-old girl living with long COVID and ME/CFS. Before becoming ill, she was a competitive dancer, spending 20 to 25 hours a week in the dance studio. Once she became ill, she could only attend school part-time. Mornings were especially difficult for her. Eventually, she found a dance instructor willing to work with her for just 45 minutes twice a week. On particularly rough weeks, she would sometimes choose to miss an afternoon of school so that she would have enough energy to dance that evening. To an outsider, that might seem like misplaced priorities. But for her, those 45 minutes of dance brought immense joy and a sense of normalcy. They were essential to her overall well-being. When we support choices like these, we're supporting the whole child, not just their academics. We're helping them to hold on to things that give their lives meaning, and we are giving them a reason to keep pushing through the hardest days. Before we wrap up, I want to share some real-life examples of accommodations that were made for children with long COVID in their schools. I've included 3 fantastic case studies here from the Long COVID Kids Educational Toolkit. This is an excellent resource, by the way, and I highly recommend that you look at it later. We've provided the link for you down below. These stories show actual successful accommodations that were put into place for children with long COVID in their schools. Final takeaway. Ultimately, please know this: your support, your belief, and your accommodations will go a long way to ensure that these students have the most successful educational experience possible. You have the power to make a positive difference in their lives. So, to wrap up, what can educators do? There are many small things that you can do to ensure your classroom is accessible for all types of learners. I believe that you know and understand diverse learners require different accommodations. You have the power to help them and to make a positive impact in their life. I would also like to note that many of the accommodations that we've suggested today are already being used in many different classrooms across the country. We've learned these accommodation strategies from many allied health professionals and teachers like yourself. This table shows the range of diverse learners and the different accommodations that can support students in their classroom. Some examples: both neurodivergent thinkers and children with chronic illnesses may need noise-canceling headphones. A child with a learning disability or a chronic illness may need extra time to complete assignments. A child with a mobility impairment or a chronic illness may need more time to walk to their next class, or they may need a friend to help carry their textbooks. Children with a visual impairment or a student with a chronic illness suffering from symptoms like migraines, which get worse with exertion, may need text-to-audio apps or devices. Children with ADHD or those with chronic illnesses that affect their processing speed and ability to concentrate may both need read-to-write apps or devices so they can focus their energy on communication. We want to make it clear that you don't have to reinvent the wheel to support these students. As a teacher, you already have lots of these suggestions at your disposal. It's just about thinking how you can incorporate what you already do for other students to support students with chronic or post-viral illnesses. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this presentation today. I hope that we have provided information that will be helpful for you to provide support and accommodations for students living with post-viral illnesses such as long COVID or other chronic illnesses, so that your students can be as successful as possible at school. Please proceed to the next module where Angela and Jennifer will speak about prevention strategies. Thank you.